Hey, I wrote this video a couple weeks ago, a week after Palworld's launch. So some of the numerical information in this video may be inaccurate because this story is absolutely insane in the way that it played out, but just know that my opinions are still the same. I just have a few numerical and time frame errors. So if you've been around the online gaming discussion as of recently, there's no doubt you've heard of a little game called Palworld. It's been one of the biggest success stories in gaming history, beating out PUBG as the paid game with the most concurrent players, sitting at around 8 million at the time of scripting this video. So how is the game? I myself have been playing it pretty regularly in the week this game has been public, so here are my thoughts as well as some things I think the game can improve upon. First and foremost, I must state that this game is in early access, so everything I say in this video is subject to change. With that out of the way, let's get into it. Palworld is a monster collecting survival crafting game hybrid. This game has been described as Pokemon with guns, but when you actually look into it, it takes more inspiration from games like Minecraft Survival Mode and Ark, at least as far as its gameplay is concerned. The game itself starts you out in some ruins and tells you that the towers are the key. You're not really given much context outside of that, but the game itself is pretty open from this point onward. There is a tutorial box at the top right of your screen that tells you some tips for getting started. You want to start by finding an area to set up, building a workbench, crafting some tools to help you mine the necessary starting materials, and going out to gather. Now, if it sounds like I've missed something, you're absolutely right. I described this game as Pokemon with guns a few sentences ago, so you're probably wondering, when does that come in? Well, after you've gathered the necessary materials, you can craft a Pal Sphere, this game's equivalent to the Pokeball. You can use that to start catching pals and using them for whatever purposes. And when I say that, I mean that there is a large variety of things you can do with pals. As well as battling, you could use them as farmhands to grow your base and cut down on some of the time you spend resource gathering and crafting. The goal of the game, aside from reaching the towers, is to watch your base grow and become self-sustaining. As you level up, you gain access to higher and higher quality tech. The game itself has a very addicting gameplay loop. As addition to the battling and farming aspect, pals themselves often require a little extra materials before you can get the most out of them, such as little trinkets relating to their species. This adds extra layers to each individual pal and rewards players who get invested in particular pals. Watching your base grow and planning on what you're going to do next is a lot of fun. The world itself is naturally built to pique your curiosity and reward you for going out and finding these things on your own. The tower bosses are a great example of this. Once you meet certain thresholds, you can challenge a strong pal tamer with a beast of their own. These battles, while being a little clunky, are tons of fun and go a long way in showing you some of the cool things you could do with Palworld's battle system. This pretty much ties the experience together. Collect, build, and fight are the three pillars of gameplay that you will engage in during your time, and while those pillars are very strong, the game is not without its issues. The question currently plaguing Palworld is, to what end? The game drops you in this wide open map and kind of just leaves you to your own devices, outside of a small tutorial. You have to forge your own objectives, and for the majority of the beginning and middle portion, you're not really given any means to know if what you're doing has any real meaning. It's only once you get to the first tower of the game that you discover what your objective actually is. In between towers, however, you're kind of left to just find things to do. We also have to talk about the elephant in the room, the pals themselves. The internet has been harsh on this game because the pals themselves are very close to, well, Pokemon in design. And while Pokemon type games are nothing new, it's a little different when your monsters look like this. To some extent, people complaining about this do have a point. There are a lot of designs in Palworld that are very similar to the Pokemon counterparts. However, I do believe that a lot of the people making this complaint are blowing it out of proportion. Yes, there are a bunch of designs that feel like, how you say, Pokemon at home. But then you have complaints like people saying Lamball is a direct ripoff of Wooloo. They're both standard-looking sheep. Game Freak does not own the rights to generic sheep design. I do think they could afford to change a few of these designs, but there are a good portion of them that I'm fine with the way they are. Like, these can stay, maybe tweak these a little bit, and completely overhaul these. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Palworld. The game is pretty fun. It's not perfect. It's still in early access, but the core gameplay loop is pretty solid. I recommend maybe checking this out if you're looking for a game to play with friends. If you're not convinced yet, but are interested, maybe wait until Pocket Pair drops a few more of these updates. This game is in early access after all. Yeah, see you in the next video, whatever that may be.